As a boy, he was always different. No one understood him.
You ready for it, boy? It's time to take your medicine. Thank you, sir.
No one could control him.
Go inside, honey.
But now, it's a new beginning. The beginning of the end for Freddy.
Every town has an Elm Street. Screaming while the bus is in motion. It's your mind to go for. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul, too.
We're gonna have to hit him with everything we got.
Now I'm playing with power.
We're in Twin Peaks here.
It's gotta be me and him.
You want to live? Maggie, watch out! What's with kids today, huh?
Freddy's Dead. The final nightmare.
Great graphics.
They saved the best for last.
Welcome to Slash, a horror movie podcast. In Season 2 of Slash, we will be covering the films of the A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Starting with the 1984 Wes Craven classic, and ending with its remake from 2010. Slash is available everywhere podcasts can be found. You can follow Slash on Twitter at /horror. And you can find every episode of Slash at fansnotexperts.com/slash. Enjoy the show. Remember that it's fun to be scared. And whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Greetings, horror fans, and welcome back to Slash. It's been a little bit since you've last heard from me, but today is September 13th, 2024. Today is Friday the 13th, and I thought, what better way to celebrate Friday the 13th than to talk about another Nightmare on Elm Street movie. But what makes this movie so significant to the fact that it is Friday the 13th? Never mind the fact that it is the next movie in the list of the franchise that we've been watching. But 33 years ago today, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, was released in theaters. And 33 years ago today, I can tell you exactly what I was doing. I was at the movies. I've told you in the past that my father brought my brother and I to see Nightmare Part 3. The first two I saw on home video, definitely too young. The third one, too young to see in the theater, but good old dad brought us. The fourth and fifth, we were already old enough, I think, to go ourselves. And I think my dad was like, I don't want to go. You guys go. And then the sixth comes around, and it's a big deal because Freddy's dead. I mean, we're not doing this anymore. The Nightmare on Elm Street franchise is going to be over. We're going to do this up big. We're going to have it in 3D, and we're going to bring in the money. So my brother and I were like, oh, we're going to this. And instead of the usual Saturday matinee, we talked some of our friends into going on a Friday night. I felt like we were the only ones excited about this. And it almost felt like the reputation of the movie, or our reputation, was kind of on the line. And it's shocking that these people still talk to us today because we had them go and see this movie. I messaged my brother. I said, we saw this opening night, right? We brought a bunch of us. He's like, oh, yeah. And it's this, I believe it was one of the movies where we were very excited and extremely disappointed, extremely let down. As I said, this movie came out September 13th, 1991. It was over 2 years since The Dream Child. And they wanted you to remember Freddy, but I think they wanted you to forget everything else about every other nightmare movie you've ever seen, because this piece of garbage stands alone by itself where it should be, on the bottom. This is by far the worst nightmare movie I've seen so far. It might be the worst of all the movies I've seen so far. I think, I'll say, I definitely think that the Rob Zombie movies are better than this. I think all the reboot, all three of them, Halloween Ends, better than this. There are things in those movies that I didn't like, that I thought were questionable, but all of them felt like capable movies with capable actors. And then there is this. I just don't understand it. This movie clocks in at under 90 minutes. Now think about, I wanted to note, Nightmare on Elm Street 1, excellent standalone movie, could have come and gone and just been a legendary horror film. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 sort of builds on the first one, but is almost its own thing. Then we get 3 that really builds on the first one, 4 and 5. That almost is like a little trilogy of Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And then we get this. Why did we get this? How did we get this? How did this happen? Well, before we talk a little bit about that, let me give you some of the stats. It says here the budget I have written down between $9 and $11 million, and it had a box office of $34.9 million. So it made money. I don't know how much money was put into advertising. It seemed like a lot of money was put into advertising for this film. The story for this film was by Rachel Talalay. Now, Rachel Talalay, still around today. She's probably best known for directing this and Tank Girl, and a ton of television that she still directs to this day. The screenplay was by Michael DeLuca. Okay. Now, Michael DeLuca has written Freddy's Nightmares episodes. He's written Stallone's Judge Dredd. And today he's a big time producer today. If you look up his name, I just wrote big time producer. I don't have any films, but he's a big time producer. You can trust me. And this movie is starring, of course, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger and a bunch of people that you won't know, except for maybe a couple. Lisa Zane as Maggie Burrows, not a great actor. Shon Greenblatt as John Doe, an absolute terrible actor. Lezlie Deane as Tracy, not a great actor. Yaphet Kotto as Doc, excellent actor. And Breckin Meyer as Spencer, pretty good actor. You might know him. And there was one other person. Where is he? I know I didn't write him down in the beginning, but it's Ricky Dean Logan, who you might recognize from being one of Griff Tannen's, one of his gang members in Club 80s in the 2015 scenes of Back to the Future Part 2. So I said that, how could they go out with this as the movie? Or why did they go out with this as the movie? Why did they decide to kill off Freddy with only 5 movies. So now we're going to do a segment that I call Slashopedia, where basically I just go to the Wikipedia page for the movie and I try to pick out some trivia about the production of the film that I'm just going to take for granted is true. And really, I just basically copied and pasted it into my Google Doc. So if it sounds really well written, don't give me credit. If it sounds really bad, don't give me credit for that either. Anyway, I'm just copied it from the Wikipedia page. It says the previous 5 installments of the Elm Street franchise had considerably helped New Line Cinema earn the nickname the house that Freddy built. But the studio had already begun to develop other franchises. And it says here, for example, Critters by 1990, Teenage Mutant, and by 1990, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, I'll give you the Ninja Turtles as a franchise, I guess. But Critters? I mean, I'm sorry, like, I like New Line Cinema saw Critters and said, oh, here's our future, these little furry balls. That sounded weird. So Bob Shea, the producer, and we will talk about him later in the film. Bob Shea recalled in the documentary Never Sleep Again, he said, frankly, it was time to move on, and we have other projects we wanted to focus on. Again, why is it move on? Like, you could just make one of these movies, spend 10, 15 million bucks, and until they really lose money. Why? And maybe focus on taking young filmmakers, giving them, like creative license and let them go with it. But instead, they did this. The decision was made to make the 6th entry the final film in the Elm Street series. Director Rachel Talalay had produced most of the previous installments and was keen to helm the 6th film as a director. She also had a number of ideas that would help refresh the series, including not calling the title A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, totally fine with that, and incorporating more humor into this entry, which she felt was lacking from the previous films. I feel like once we got to 3, I mean, there was some humor in 2, but once we got to 3, we were getting some classic Freddy lines. He was getting like Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Bond lines. So I think her idea of bringing humor in is to bring in, like, make it wacky and over the top, and some might say dumb. And if that's what she was looking for, then mission accomplished. Now, I didn't know this until I read this today. That says in the original script, 15-year-old Jacob Johnson is a major character. Now, who's Jacob Johnson? Do you remember Alice from parts 4 and 5? She had that son. There was, just a baby, but he's supposed to be 15 years old. So this would take place 15 years after part 5. He's supposed to be a major character in this movie. Okay, so it ties it into the previous ones. And it said many of the Dream Warriors from Nightmare 3 would be aiding Jacob to defeat Freddy after Freddy kills Alice. Okay, you don't want to see Alice die, but it still continues on with the story. The idea was later discarded for this. Now, Peter Jackson, yes, Middle-earth's own Peter Jackson also wrote a screenplay that was not used. It says here his story was about teenagers who did not see Freddy as a threat and took sleeping pills to enter Freddy's world. Jackson's script also included a police officer who was put into a comatose state to permanently be in Freddy's realm. So it's like they're almost going there to, I don't know what, hang out with him? I don't know what that is, but I guarantee if either of these scripts were produced, it would have to have been better than what we saw. In the 1980s, there was a resurgence of 3D cinema. I think it first kind of started in the 1950s. But in the 80s, there was a bit of a resurgence. And a lot of the time, you'd see these movie franchises incorporate 3D in the third part of your franchise. You'd get your Friday the 13th Part 3, your Jaws 3, or your Amity 3D, Jaws 3D. Like, I think those are the only 3 I can think of, but it happened. And, by 1991, 3D was already like passe. The fad came and went. It came back, James Cameron brought it back, but it came and went in the 80s. And for some reason, they thought in 1991, let's do this. Let's not wait. Let's not, we already missed the third one. Let's do it in the sixth and final one. This will be a cool gimmick that'll really get people in the door. Now, as I said, this movie made about $34 million. It had a good opening, but in the end, it was the fifth lowest of all the Nightmare movies. So even 3D glasses couldn't save it. I mean, by 91, for me, 3D glasses was like going to 7-Eleven to get glasses so I could watch like Revenge of the Nerds 3 on TV in 3D, or the Three Stooges marathon on New Year's Eve. They put that in 3D. But movies, you didn't go see movies in 3D for years. And even after this, you didn't see movies in 3D for years. But A Nightmare on Elm Street thought, well, we can't do the whole thing in 3D. That's too expensive. Let's just do the last 10 minutes in 3D. And like, well, how are we going to, tell people put the 3D glasses on now? Well, I have a great idea, said some stupid screenwriter. Why don't we have one of the characters put on 3D glasses in the movie? That'll be a subtle way to tell the people in the audience to put on your glasses now. Yes, that actually happened. If you haven't watched this movie, if you don't want to watch this movie, the last 10 minutes, one of the characters puts on 3D glasses. I don't know why. I forget. They're supposed to let you go into the dream world or something, or see Freddy out of the world. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is that 3D glasses hurt your eyes. They're hurting my eyes right now. 3D glasses are a gimmick, and 3D glasses are the way that they wanted to bring people into this movie, and they did it. And the effects were dumb. The way they got to the effects, the way they got to the glasses, is very dumb. Have you noticed that's the word that I'm using in this movie a lot? This movie is dumb. I'll go on a limb. Freddy's makeup looks terrible in this movie. It looks too dry. It looks too much like a rubber mask. It's just everything about this movie fails, and I haven't even given you the quick plot yet. I started taking notes. I made it about 20 minutes in. I go, what am I doing? Let me just skim through the movie, because this movie is not worth it. I like talking about it. I literally went on Amazon a couple weeks ago and bought 10 3D glasses just so I could put these glasses on. They only came in packs of 10, so I could put these glasses on for these few minutes of this episode, and so that the thumbnail has me wearing these glasses too. And just like in the real movie, I'm not wearing these 3D glasses throughout the entire video. In fact, let's take these glasses off right now and go back to the regular glasses, because now I can see. But what's cool is, like, now the room feels really bright. It's almost like the glasses were hurting my eyes so much that now my regular glasses, I feel like I can see through walls. So before we get to the movie, I still have a few other notes. It says that this movie, the MPAA, had very little editing for violent sequences because, again, this movie just is so light and so dumb. They said the work print, there's like 47 minutes of footage was removed from the final print. Like, what else could there have been? Maybe things that made sense. It says there was more of Maggie discussing her nightmares. She's the counselor woman with her mother. More dialogue between the doc and Tracy. I think Tracy's the blonde girl. I don't know. Additional footage of the Springwood Fair. Oh, we have to talk about that. Discovery of Freddy's basement. I would have liked to see that, but they edited it out to get to Freddy quicker, I guess. And here's another thing. Once again, there's no explanation of how Freddy's back. He's just back. That happened in pretty much every single movie. I don't know how Freddy gets back. He just comes back. So I think the biggest shocker of this entire movie is that the score was produced by Brian May, the legendary guitarist from Queen. He wrote the score for this film. And the soundtrack actually features, in the song that I featured at the beginning of this episode, the song that opens up the movie, the Goo Goo Dolls. Before I'm going your name, or whatever it was. Before that, they were more rockin', and this is one of their big rockin' debuts. They were around, for years before they had their hit. I also wrote down that as a publicity stunt for both Freddy's Dead and the comic storylines that were still being released around the film's cinematic release, for the comic books. Oh, New Line Cinema held a mock funeral for Freddy at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. A bunch of people were there. Who cares? But the mayor at the time, I think, called it Freddy Krueger Day, which got some pushback. Because it's Freddy Krueger Day based on a child rapist killer who's now a demon who kills teens in their dreams. Congratulations, you get the key to the city. I mean, that's just seemed like maybe not the greatest thing. This movie got a 23% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is just a shockingly high score, I think. So the movie opens up with a quote from Nietzsche, which I thought, what are you doing trying to be deep? It says, do you know the terror of he who falls asleep? To the very toes he is terrified because the ground gives way under him and the dream begins. Friedrich Nietzsche. But then, one of the few times the humor works for me, the next quote says, welcome to prime time, bitch. Freddy Krueger. We also open up with a little explanation, a little, not quite the Star Wars scroll, but we get a little explanation of what happened or what's been going on in Springwood. It says, Springwood, Ohio, 10 years from now. What? 10 years from now? So is this taking place in 2001 at the time? Or is this taking place because I'm seeing it now in 2034? I don't know. Kind of a dumb way to explain things. It says mysterious killings and suicides wipe out the entire population of children and teenagers. So Springwood has no children and teenagers. That seems almost impossible. Like, you think a few families would move away, and you'd think that, I mean, Freddy only killed a few kids a year, but now, and it says the mysterious suicides. I think, are they saying Freddy killed all of them? Like, some are killing, some are suicide. Maybe some kids are just freaking out because of Freddy and there is suicides. I don't know. It says remaining adults are experiencing mass psychosis. There is new evidence of one surviving teenager. What's the evidence? It's never said. That line actually makes no sense. We just get right to the surviving teenager. He is this kid on an airplane, but he's already sleeping or something. I don't know. Like, none of it makes sense. There's so much to hate about this movie. This kid, John Doe, he is absolutely an awful actor. Every line read, every whoa is so bad. He is on an airplane. He falls out of the airplane, so he's in the dream. There's one girl there, this little girl who's like, you're going to help him. Now that girl comes back into play later, so I guess we're in dream world now. He wakes up in a house. We get the house flying through Oz. We do get a wicked Fred of the West, which is, I guess, fine, kind of dumb. Again, this is the humor. They totally missed out on doing a Twilight Zone Freddy Krueger on the wing. There's something on the wing, and it's Freddy on the wing. I can't believe nobody thought of that. That's ridiculous. So this dummy falls out of a plane back into Springwood, and then he rolls down the biggest hill you've ever seen anyone roll down, ever. He gets to the bottom of this hill. We see a ticket taker. Now, that ticket taker is Robert Shaye, the producer of all the Nightmare movies, the brother of Lynn Shaye from the Conjuring movies. Not the Conjuring movies. Was she in the first Conjuring movie? She might be. The Insidious movies. But for whatever reason, he's like, here's a ticket. And then Freddy shows up driving a bus for some reason. Freddy's alive. We don't know. He smashes the kid into the bus, pushes the kid through, like, I don't know, a dark wall into the light of Springwood. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It's so dumb. And he's like, go fetch. So I guess is he the last kid from Springwood? Okay. This movie's 33 years old. So we know there's a whole thing going on. We find out Freddy's daughter. I'm spoiling stuff. So maybe he's telling him to go fetch her. I'm looking at this hindsight. I have no idea. But he wakes up, he hit his head. He wakes up. We see he's holding an article that says Krueger woman still missing. The whereabouts of Springwood resident Loretta Krueger, reported missing 30 days ago, remains unknown. Mrs. Krueger, wife of Fred Krueger, just disappeared without a trace. So this is the first time we're getting the inkling that Freddy had a wife. I don't think that ever came up before. Disappearance. A mystery. Springwood police continue to work around the clock to solve yet another unexplained occurrence in the local area. working in concert with Central City and Ohio State authorities. She was last seen doing housework at her Springwood home. Okay, interesting. So he has a newspaper clipping. We're not sure exactly why, but we jump over now to the Recovery House Youth Center, and we see someone who I guess is a pretty good actor. If you ever watched Franklin and Bash or saw Clueless, or what else was he in? Was he in the Garfield movies? Breckin Meyer. He's there. He's a troubled youth, and we see him playing video games, which comes into play later because this is not a really well-written script. We see his dad puts him in this recovery house, this youth center, whatever it is, because he's a troubled youth. He's like, I don't want to be like my dad, who's, played on the football team and loves date rape. I'm like, whoa. But he does make pipe bombs, so he's a bit of a troubled youth. He runs off like joking, I'm just teaching the youth. We see that prick John Doe who fell out of the airplane. He looks like a junkie. One of the things that I thought was kind of clever was he had in his hand when he was looking at the newspaper this stay awake medication, don't fall asleep. They didn't really show it outright. They just kind of subtly, if you didn't see it, you didn't notice it was there. But they didn't pull it on the screen. Like when actors or characters look at something, like take it out of their pocket and give a glance, like, oh, to remind the audience what he's holding. They didn't do that, which I thought was, I give them credit for. So, but he seems to be popping some of these pills in the alleyway. The cops pick him up and they said they're going to bring him to the shelter. They're his problem. Back at the shelter, we meet two other of the main kids, two more really, really not great actors. Ricky Dean Logan, who I mentioned already, is from Back to the Future 2. Now we find out he is deaf. He wears a hearing aid. I wonder if that'll come back into play later. And we meet Lezlie Deane, who she went on to play the Gimp in the Pulp Fiction parody Plump Fiction. Anyway, she's doing some, kickboxing. I wonder if that'll come into play later. I think it does. I actually don't remember. Then we finally get a good actor. I don't know how they got Yaphet Kotto, but they did. I don't know if he's wearing a wig or not, but it doesn't matter. He's so great in this. But of course, he's studying dreams. Why wouldn't he be studying dreams? At some local youth center, he's studying dreams, and he can reach out to these kids through his dreams. And of course, the other counselor is at Maggie. She's having trouble with her dreams. And of course, he's talking about this. They have this painting on the wall that talks about dream demons who give a dark, twisted soul the power to come into our dreams. It's like, oh, everyone's studying dreams and the power to get into dreams. And oh, this John Doe just shows up with dreams. Dream. Like, we're finally getting, I guess, reasons or explanations of how Freddy can do what he can do, which is dumb, I'll just say. So the new kid comes in and he has amnesia and he's like, all I know is if I fall asleep, I'm going to die. And he thinks he's the last survivor. He doesn't know from what, doesn't know anything. But the counselor sees the newspaper clipping later. She's like, Springwood Water Tower. And she recognizes all of this. And that same woman, she has a bad dream. Oh, it's the same woman who has a bad dream. And you're thinking, well, I wonder where this is going. So where the kids are all sleeping, this prick, he stays up late singing 99 million bottles of beer on the wall. And he's making everyone else pissed, but he doesn't want to fall asleep. And I just wanted to note that behind him, someone wrote Sepultura on the wall. And I think there are 2 times we see Sepultura written. And I just thought that was cool because they're like a big heavy metal band of the 80s and 90s, still around today. But not like a big, famous, well-known band. They're just the band that metalheads would know. So I thought that was a cool little touch, seeing that written on the wall. So we jump back to Maggie, the counselor, and she is at her desk falling asleep. She's got the newspaper article in front of her. And holy shit, the woman on the article actually raises up out of the article. It's like, I won't tell, she says, like her face pops up. And we see the counselor is dreaming. She's dreaming herself as a little kid running around a yard, but we don't see, she's being chased by her parents playfully. We don't see her daddy yet, but I wonder where it's going. And I guess we found out that the prick also fell asleep. That's why I keep calling John Doe, because I really hated him. He sees the same little girl and he's like, he says, tell me who I am. I know who you are. You're a terrible actor. So now we see him, he gets up and in the dream, he's walking upstairs. So in the movie, he is sleepwalking up invisible stairs. A new effect. It doesn't make any sense. He should just be lying in bed. That's where he's sleeping. It's just really dumb. But they now see, they wake up and they realize there's must be a connection between his dream and the council's dream, because he was dreaming about this place called Springwood, and she has this terrible idea. Now let's take them all to Springwood to face their fears. So they go in this van, this really bad van, and while they're driving there, they find out that the other three kids have all stowed away in the van. So it's a van filled with terrible actors. The counselor lady's like, I want you to go back. I want you to, call and tell them where you are and then go home. They come to this fair, this fun fair, this whatever it is going on in the town. They get to Springwood. I guess it was like 5 minutes away. And she tells them, look, you need to call and tell them where you are, get in the van and go back home. And I'm like, wait, what? Strand? Like, why don't you just stay with them, stay together, spend an hour and go back home? Instead, you tell those three to go back home and leave you stranded in Springwood? That doesn't make any sense. Like, it is really illogical, nonsensical writing that I'm almost offended by how poor that was. So anyway, the Springwood Fair is almost kind of smart, almost kind of good, but handled so absurdly. So they say after all the kids, remember the adults have this like group psychosis. They're all kind of having fun without kids, like almost like being kids. And at one point, they get Tom Arnold and Roseanne Barr to come up and talk to some of the kids. Oh, my children, I want my children back. And Tom Arnold's like, you can't have them back. That they would bring him. So it's like, she goes, I'm sorry, I won't let it happen this time. So their kids must have been killed. But Tom Arnold's like, no, you can't have your kids here. This would bring Freddy back. So, okay, I guess. It's like really not great stunt casting. It's like the equivalent of something you'd see in like a scary movie 6, one of those bad parody movies that they parody something. Like if someone watches this movie now, they're just going to see two people. But at the time, it's like, oh my goodness gracious, it's Roseanne Barr and Roseanne Barr's husband. And that's really like, it was stunt casting now, but people watching it now might not even know who either of them are. So the kids get back in the van and they strand the other two there. It makes no sense. I think it was kind of clever that no matter which direction the kids go trying to leave the town, they end up circling back into the town. Meanwhile, Maggie and John Doe head to the school because they hear some school bells. So they're like, let's go. Someone's ringing the bells. They see a chalk drawing of Freddy on the ground that says 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. I thought it was pretty good. Inside the car, I said they're going in circles. Carlos falls asleep looking at the map and is almost killed by a giant map. Dumb, bad acting. Freddy's dead, the final nightmare. So Maggie and Idiot go into the school and they see a classroom. Now, on the chalkboard of the classroom, I wrote down what is written there. It says, it has like a year timeline. It says, he is come. Now, is that supposed to be Freddy or God? It's 1066 aligns with Saxons. 1492 sails ocean blue. That would be Columbus. 1812 first kill with cannon. Now that's from a war. It's not talking about Freddy, right? Then it says 1869 Freddy kills Marie. Is that supposed to be Marie Antoinette? 1929 the crash. 1933 Munich sighting. I think it says Munich sighting. I can't tell. 1945 Hiroshima and Nagasaki attempts fail. What? So are they saying the bombs didn't drop? It says 1966 child taken. O's win in 4. I think that says the Orioles won the World Series. 1979 Freddy kills Elvis. And then it's just a bunch of kills, a bunch of X's for all the kills that have been since then. I just thought that was a fun little thing to look at. Then he pulls down, the teacher is just kind of talking to no one, pulls down a map. And on the map on the wall, it says 5, 6, grab your crucifix. And that's really where I stopped taking notes. Now I'm just going to kind of wing it and bring you through the rest of the movie because it's just, it wasn't worth it for me to take these notes anymore. So I'm going to cycle through um, what I see in this movie going forward. And the first thing you see is that woman Maggie finds a book, like a scrapbook, and it shows all these articles from all these kids missing, kids, where are they? Kids being dead, like killed. It is actually quite effective because it looks like real articles, uh, and the kids look, like real photos. But then if you like pause on any of the articles, it kind of loses some of the luster because it says right here, Kruger sought, boy 7 missing. Then you read the article, and the article actually says Yankees, a 3-2 victory over Kansas City Athletics in the second bat day at the stadium. If you go down a little more, it actually says a military spokesperson said that the headquarter units of the 7th Regiment landing team of the 1st Marine Division. Basically, what's happening here is the props department just took a headline, and they figure you're just not even going to look at the article at all. But I'm looking at it on my computer screen, and I can read it clear as day. Back then, they thought no one can ever see the great detail of the text. They're not going to look at it. They're going to see the article. It's going to be so quick that we're going to move on. Another mutilated body found in Springwood. And again, it talks about the Marine landing, but then it goes right into baseball clippings. It's just really bad. It says Kruger woman. A board foot is a standard measure of volume equal to the square foot of wood an inch thick. They couldn't give some production assistant say, here, write a quick article, 3 paragraphs, and we can use it. Like, that's just the level of production quality that this movie has. She takes out the clipping of, it says Kruger woman missing, and it looks like it fits seamlessly into one of the newspaper clippings. Oh my goodness, it's all coming together, they think. Again, this movie's it's just, the story's so dumb. So the teacher starts going a little cuckoo, and they're like, they're looking around in the classroom. They see all these different years and all these different names of people missing. And it seems like at some point the names just stop being listed because all the kids are gone. So speaking of the other kids, and don't worry, this movie gets stupider. The 3 of them realize that they're stranded, so they stop driving around and start walking through a neighborhood. They find a random house. They go, let's go inside this random house. And for some reason, it's like the house was tricking them. The house starts to bleed. Then it starts to explode, and they realize that they're actually inside Nancy's house from the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Why? I don't know. Are they dreaming? Are they already asleep? I don't know. How is this happening? I don't know. Do I care? That I know, and I do not. The answer is no. So inside the house, like, they're like, let's just go fall asleep on this dusty mattress. The kid with the hearing aid, the deaf kid, the other kid finds a TV to go watch. I mean, it is a lot of random dumbness, and we start to finally see some kills. I mean, we are a half an hour into this movie, and there's been no Freddy kills. Freddy's barely been in it. He's been in it for 2 seconds. So this whole thing of Rachel Talalay is like, we want to get to Freddy quick. I've seen next to nothing. I've seen him drive a bus. I've seen him fly on a witch's broom. And that's really it. So this first kid has a dream, which of course leads to, first he sees his mother. I think it's his mother, turns into Freddy. Freddy rips off his ear, rips off his hearing aid. It all has to do, like, the hearing aid. Oh, there was another thing that I enjoyed in this movie, and it was kind of funny, but I thought it was pretty good. When the kid didn't have his hearing aid on, you couldn't hear anything, and Freddy's behind him, like, even hamming up for the camera, going boo, boo, making all these noises, knowing he can't hear them. I thought that was fun. That was probably if out of the fun things, the quote unquote funny things, that one actually worked pretty good for me. So Freddy somehow turns up the hearing aid or something, makes it so loud, or the hearing aid turns into a monster that gets so sensitive that water drips are hurting him. Freddy throws pins. He's like, no, not pins, because you could hear a pin drop, and everything is just really I think it makes his head explode or some crap like that. I mean, it is really dumb. We jump over to the video game kid, and he's gonna sit and smoke weed and watch TV while uh, the Maggie and the other kid head over to, where do they head over to? The Springwood Orphanage, of course, because they want to find out more about, I think, her past. They meet the woman who runs the orphanage, who's talking to nobody, but she recognizes the woman. But I think she calls her a different name. So they all kind of know that this girl's past has something to do with Springwood. But the orphanage, there's just a grown woman talking to no one because everyone's gone crazy in this movie, including me for watching it. Breckin Meyer, meanwhile, he's back. He falls asleep in front of the TV. He wakes up, and who do we see from the original Nightmare on Elm Street but Johnny Depp doing some stupid "This Is Your Brain on Drugs," which made sense at the time, with the egg. This is your brain on drugs. And then Freddy shows up and kills him in the dream. Really kind of dumb, but Breckenmeyer thinks it's really funny. And then what ends up happening to Breckenmeyer is he gets sucked into the TV and then gets sucked into a video game. And it is so stupid. Freddy is playing the video game with a joystick. He then has the Power Glove later, which was a Nintendo thing. And I think he says, now you're playing with power or great graphics. It might have been both things, like really great graphics, like so bad. It's like we're jumping back and forth between this Maggie girl, the kid John Doe, and my dog who's literally sticking her head in between my legs looking to jump up on my lap. We're jumping back and forth between Maggie and the John Doe and these three kids, but they reconnect when they find out that something is wrong with the Breckin Meyer character. He's getting his stomach stamped in because in the video game, in his dream, he's getting his stomach stomped in. It is so dumb. It is, and like at one point, Breckin Meyer's body's bouncing up and down like he's Super Mario Brother in the game. It is so stupid. He's punching walls. He's like doing all these dumb things. And I mean, this is how he ends up being killed. He slaps. Oh no, the John Doe kid ends up fighting the karate girl. It is so dumb. Now the karate girl can go into her dreams. It's like, oh, I know how to get into your dreams. I don't even want to talk about this that much anymore. But they go into the dream. They find Freddy. Oh, they go into the dream to try to get Breckin Meyer out of the dream. That's when they see Freddy with the power glove. I mean, it is really, really stupid. But they open up like a gateway to hell, and Breckin Meyer, they throw him off the stairs into this gate of hell, and he's dead. He's gone. So I think he's dead. The deaf kid's dead. So we have like a kill count of 2, and it's really, really, really stupid. But then the karate girl shows up, the girl who knows how to do kickboxing. And what does she do? She punches Freddy in the nuts. Then they have a nice big fight. The original John Doe kid, he ends up in a dream where he's on a friggin' parachute. Freddy shows up on the parachute, cuts the parachute line. He falls to his death. And even though I think he fell on the van or something, it was like the best part of the movie was this kid is dead because it's so dumb. Now they're out. They're actually out. They get out. Maggie and the blonde girl get out. 3 of the kids are dead. No one seems to be freaking out. Or 2 of the kids are dead. I'm sorry. The blonde girl. No, 3 of the kids because John Doe. Nobody seems to care. You'd think there'd be a police investigation. They're just talking to Yaphet Kotto, who's the doctor of talking about dreams. And he's like, I know there's something we can do. We need to go back into your dreams, but you need to wear these magical 3D glasses to do that. And she's like, oh, I don't want to do that. So they're back at the orphanage or whatever it is, the youth center. The kickboxing girl's, kickboxing because she's angry. The Maggie, the counselor, is upset, but then she has a breakthrough and she realizes through some of her, I don't know, who the hell knows, flashbacks, that her dad is Freddy Krueger. Her mom is the woman in the poster in the newspaper article, and she is the little girl that originally is from originally in those we've been seeing throughout the movie. It's actually her as a kid. Then we get some weird shit of her in her with the pigtails and the bow and the little girl dress, and it is very odd seeing this full grown woman like this. She's meeting Freddy. Freddy's like, you're my daughter. I love you very much. This was great. We see the kickboxer girl confront her father, who's like some sort of pedophile. Is Freddy's there too? I mean, there's a lot going on. And um, does Yaphet Kotto get killed? Oh, Freddy comes out of the dream somehow and kills Yaphet Kotto. I have to be honest with you. You could probably see the difference in between the part where I took notes and the part where I stopped taking notes because I stopped caring. I just know that, oh, Yaphet Kotto, he visits Yaphet Kotto in his dreams. Yaphet Kotto wakes himself up, but he tore some of the Freddy's sweater. So he realizes, if I can pull him out, we can pull him out together. This is the key. This is a doctor figuring this out. He's like, this is the key. This is how we do this. So he hooks up some electrodes to that girl, Maggie, and he's like, you need to go into the dream, but here, put these 3D glasses on. And then we get some truly awful, I'm sure they were awful 3D effects, awful like stop motion animation of these demons that I think are the dream demons, who are supposed to be the ones who I guess give Freddy their powers. We see them in 3D flying at you. Like, they look like Muppets. They look like something you'd see in a Jim Henson scary dream, like in Fraggle Rock. It is truly frightening how bad they are, not how scary they are. But she ends up in the dream world, and now she has the magic powers to go back and see early Freddy, who likes to hurt things, but his dad is, or his guardian is Alice Cooper, which I thought was kind of cool. Now we see that Freddy actually killed his wife right in front of the little girl. And now we see, and then she's like, oh my God, you're my dad. She wants to take Freddy out of the dream into the real world. She goes to grab Freddy. Is like, as long as I'm grabbing you, I can wake up. And she tries to get Freddy into the dream world, but I don't think it works. In fact, it doesn't work. So they're like, let's go back in one more time and do it again. Oh, wait, they do get him out. I don't friggin' know. They get him out and they kill him. I mean, they basically, they start throwing. Does she throw like throwing stars at them or something? I mean, yes, she throws actual ninja throwing stars to pin Freddy against the wall, and he somehow can't just rip his sweater off. She puts on the Freddy glove and actually uses it to kill Freddy. And I mean, and then like send him off into the world. And it's like, Freddy's dead. That's how the movie ended. Can you see the difference? Can you see that I'm almost rushing because my dog is crying to go out? This movie, I can't believe 23% of the world liked this movie. They killed 3 people, and I didn't like, maybe the deaf kid I kind of liked. The Breckin Meyer kid was, okay, but his death was literally video game stupid. I mean, think about it. One kid played video games early in the movie, comes back. One kid is deaf. We know that comes back. And one girl knows kickboxing, that comes back. She survives. Freddy Krueger Jr., the daughter, survives. Yaphet Kotto survives. They're all smiles. Meanwhile, 3 kids are dead. 3 kids. They're like, we did it. Freddy's dead. And that's the end of the movie. And I don't even think we get an end credit. The credits are actually like an homage to all the Freddy movies. All these clips is very much like the end of Deadpool and Wolverine. And you realize, oh my God, every single thing we see here is better. And that's it. That's the end of Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare. And it's not the final nightmare. It's not even the final, but it is kind of the final nightmare movie with Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, right? Because we get, I don't know what we get next, but I know I saw that in the theater too. So I'll be looking forward to getting to that next time. But if this feels rushed, it's because I rushed towards the ending, because this movie is so bad, it doesn't deserve to be talked about anymore. And that's it. I got to go take my dog out right now. I'm going to get this up very quickly for you guys. But thank you guys for continuing to listen to the show, for finding it, whether you're finding it on Spotify or iTunes or YouTube or anywhere else you get podcasts. I do appreciate it. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Mastodon.social at Geek Mentality. You can find the show on Twitter at /horror. I think we're other places at /horror too, but really Twitter is the only place I post stuff. And you can find everything we do at fansnotexperts.com and Fans Not Experts on YouTube. That's it. I'm done. We're almost through with this season. We only got a couple episodes left. That's right. Only 2 episodes left of this season. you might think, well, isn't there a third movie? Well, no. That's something for down the line. That's the plan I have. But I also have an idea for one bonus episode, but that's a couple months away. I think you might have an idea. You might know what it is based on what I just said a couple months away. But until then, my friends, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for finding and sharing the show with your friends, all your friends. Thank you for the families who are sitting around the television watching me on YouTube right now. I really appreciate it. Hi, Timmy. Hi, Mr. Smith. I have no idea what I'm talking about anymore. I'm rambling. My dog really wants to go out. So that's it. I'm done. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And remember, ready, say it. And remember, it's fun to be scared. Love my doggy. Toodles.
Fans not experts.